Ever wondered about the difference between propositional logic and predicate logic in AI? Let's dive in, starting with propositional logic. Propositional logic, in essence, is all about declarative sentences that hold a truth value. These sentences or propositions are like the building blocks of logical reasoning. They can either be true or false, but never both, and never anything in between. They have to have a definitive truth value without any ambiguity. You might be wondering, what does a propositional logic statement look like? Well, take the sentence, "The sun rises in the east." It's a simple declarative sentence and it holds a truth value. In this case, it's true. But if we were to say, "The sun rises in the west," that would also be a proposition, albeit a false one. Propositional logic is primarily used to analyze these kinds of statements. It allows us to dissect a statement, whether individually or in a composite manner. It's a bit like being a detective looking for the truth value in each sentence. But not all sentences qualify as propositions. For instance, the question "What is your name?" isn't a proposition because it doesn't have a definitive truth value. It's ambiguous. Similarly, the mathematical equation a plus b squared equals 100 isn't a proposition either, because its truthfulness depends on the values of a and b. So, in a nutshell, propositional logic deals with sentences that are either true or false. It's a way of analyzing these sentences to understand their truth values and how they relate to each other. It's a fundamental concept in logic, mathematics, and computer science, forming the basis for higher-level reasoning techniques. Now that we've covered the basics of propositional logic, let's move on to its more complex cousin, predicate logic. Now, let's delve into the world of predicate logic. Picture this. Predicates are like the supporting actors in a movie, providing additional information to better express the subject of the sentence. They're properties, giving us more context to understand the subject. For instance, consider this. Px, x is greater than 5. Here, x is the subject or the variable, and is greater than 5 is the predicate. The predicate is giving us extra information about x, but this isn't a proposition yet. It's like a movie script that's still in the works. To turn it into a proposition, we need to assign a value to x. So let's say x is 7. Now we have p, 7. 7 is greater than 5. This is a proposition. It has a truth value, which in this case is true. It's like our movie script has now become a full-fledged movie. Predicates also introduce the concept of a universe or a domain of discourse or a domain of predicate. It sounds fancy, but it's simply the set of values that the variables of the predicate can assume. It's like the world our movie is set in, dictating what our characters can and cannot do. But remember, predicate logic doesn't exist in isolation. It's an extension of propositional logic, adding more depth and detail. It's like taking a black and white movie and adding color to it. It helps us analyze the scope of the subject over the predicate, introducing 3 quantifiers: the universal quantifier, representing for all, the existential quantifier, signifying there exists some, and the uniqueness quantifier depicting exactly one. What's more, predicate logic can deal with sets of entities, thanks to these quantifiers. It's like having a whole cast of characters in our movie, each with their own roles and relationships. Now that we've explored both propositional logic and predicate logic, let's summarize what we've learned. Let's take a moment to summarize what we've learned about propositional logic and predicate logic. Propositional logic is the foundation, dealing with declarative statements with a clear truth value of either true or false. It's a generalized representation, often referred to as Boolean logic. However, it lacks the ability to analyze the scope of a subject or to deal with sets of entities. Now, enter predicate logic, an extension of propositional logic. It introduces variables and quantifiers, giving us a more specialized representation. Predicate logic shines in its ability to analyze the scope of a subject over a predicate and to deal with sets of entities. The key difference lies in their representation and scope analysis. While propositional logic offers a broader view, predicate logic dives deeper, providing us with more detailed insights. Remember, understanding these 2 types of logic is crucial in the field of AI, so keep exploring and keep learning.